Cosplayers of Reddit, what is the cringiest interaction you've had at an event? Was cosplaying Black Cat from Spider-Man. It was a very tight and form-fitting costume and I opted not to wear underwear because you could very clearly see the lines in the costume if I did. Had a guy come up behind me and unzip my suit, which wouldn't have been so bad if the zipper didn't go all the way down to the bottom of my ass. For about 10 seconds my pale back and ass was very much exposed. I witnessed a pedoba cosplay throw a little girl over his shoulder and run off. Little girl was fine but later told me in the group we'd been dancing with she didn't know the guy. So that's pretty, yeah. So I went to my first con a few years ago. I wasn't brave enough to dress up so I wanted to take pics etc. I saw a really amazing Doctor Who cosplay so I asked him for a hug and pic. He was really enthusiastic about it and we had a pic ready to go until I heard a gruff hurry up, other people want a hug too. This large middle-aged lady in a tight ass tank top was giving us this glare. Legit, the cosplayer went from happy to miserable as soon as we took a pic. Like, holy cow, the cosplayers aren't props, they're people. Don't demand physical contact, you have to ask. He definitely didn't give up a hug for her. Cringy and hilarious. So at my first con I was dressed as Silk Spectre 2, comic book version. I was still using my cane because I was only a year out from my accident and this guy decides that obviously I'm his one true love or something and I'm not able to hustle away fast enough to escape easily. I lose him a few times but he keeps popping up hitting on me and making comments about how I should have been Silk Spectre. This is at least 2 or 3 hours of this Romeo following me around. Well, somehow I managed to lose him and I end up asking this beefy old dude if he minds that I take the unoccupied chair at his table since my hips and legs are acting up. Half an hour later we're chatting and having a good old time when my Romeo shows up. Romeo looks at me. Romeo looks at beefy old guy. Beefy old guy looks at me and I guess I must look scared or creeped out or something because beefy old guy just stands up and leans real close to Romeo's face and says, "Can I help you with something?" Romeo fricks off. I eventually get up and walk away when the table gets busy. Glance at the banner above the table as I walk away. Beefy old guy was Lou Ferrigno. Went to a con as Zuko from Avatar. An cosplayer approached me excitedly to talk about the show but after 10 minutes, pulled out his phone and wanted me to read their X-rated Avatar, Katara for your information, fanfic. Proceeded to tell me how long he's been working on the fic, and how he was planning out the rest of the story to have books like the show itself. This thing looked to be novel length by this point. I politely excused myself and left but this guy found me on FB later on and sends me NSW Avatar fan art every now and then. Had small cake pieces with me for friends. Carried it in an open plastic box in my hands. In the tram to the convention I met an older lady. We started talking about my costume and why all these funny looking people are here for and so on. While I explained it to her she was suddenly looking for something in her handbag. Pulled out a small plastic spoon and helped herself with my cake while listening to me. I was too confused to say anything and let her finish. I even jumped out of the tram station earlier because I was worried about more cake being eaten. Weird story but looking back now I should have offered her more. I don't know what it takes to make you eat a stranger's cake in a tram without asking first if you can have some. Can I be the cringe? I cosplayed Naruto when I was 13 and a Sasuke cosplayer who was 14 made out with me, which was basically biting my mouth. It went semi-viral on YouTube to the point where I was offered money. I had forgotten about the video until that email, and then decimated my Holit account when I was 15-16. Good lord, I was a horrible weeb. I have so many stories. Few years back my then girlfriend was cosplaying Chell from Portal at a con. It was mostly great. Everyone and their mom wanted a photo with her, except this one guy who decided to grill her on how much he really knew about Portal. He was looking at her like he just found a unicorn, but she was mad as heck that some stranger thought she needed to prove herself to him. I think he thought he was flirting. There is the fake geek girl thing that comes up with some guys. I get grilled on Batman lore when I wear any of my Batman shirts, even just around town. It's strange. I was cosplaying as Red X from Teen Titans and I had this 16-year-old girl dressed as Raven follow me around and try and get me to kiss her all day long. I was 20 at the time. That's not very Raven. I was dressed as Edward Elric, Friend was dressed as Envy from FMA. The show was still super popular back then and glomping was a thing. Some girl ran up behind me at top speed and jumped on my back. And I'm tall, not short like Ed, and bashed me into a table and brought me to my knees. It was horribly embarrassing and painful. More funny than cringy, but my husband doesn't really attend cons anymore because he feels he's too old for them. Before he stopped going, we attended Anime Central in 2002 in Chicago. We passed by a group of Harry Potter cosplayers wearing striped scarves and my husband turned to me and said, "It's good to know kids still like Doctor Who." Some girl asks me to sing a duet in the karaoke room, which I agree to. 30 seconds in and I realize that it's some anime song that is sung in Japanese, and it's 8 minutes long. Longest and most cringiest 8 minutes of my life while butchering the Japanese language in front of an audience. Not really cosplay, but at the midnight showing of the last Harry Potter movie I was dressed in a Slytherin shirt with a house scarf. I was standing with some friends and some girl came up to me and said I was everything that was wrong in this world. I asked what she was talking about and she yelled, "Anyone who truly likes Slytherin is a bane on humanity." I just stared as her friends took her away. At Anime Matsuri last month, I was cosplaying as Prompto with my friend as Noctis, a much younger Noctis cosplayer. They look to be about 13-14, whereas we're in our mid-20s. Came up to us and said their Prompto really wanted to meet us. We followed this Noctis cosplayer over to their group of friends, introduced ourselves to the other Prompto, took some selfies, had some laughs. Apparently, the kids felt super comfortable around us, because they then proceeded to pull out their sketchbooks and show us the explicit fan art they'd drawn while loudly describing each pornographic scene in detail. Needless to say, my friend and I exchanged a look of abject horror and hightailed it out of there, torn between feeling utterly skeevy and biting down the urge to call their mothers. Obviously, there are kids who wander into the NSW side of fandom. I'm sure we all had our instances of saying we were 18 plus when prompted to on AFNet, LJ, etc. back in the day, but to have little children showing me the pee they drew in real life was positively jarring. Every day we stray further from God's light. I cosplayed as Skull Kid last year, IDK in American Comic Con, but in my country there are a lot of PPL with signs like free hugs and sometimes they do it without asking. If this wasn't cringy already, since I 3D printed the mask the pointy ends were, well, very pointy. When some weeb hugged me without asking for it they usually got stabbed by the mask and laughed in an uncomfortable way and ended the hug as soon as possible. I have a friend who cosplayed a Homestuck character back in 2012. I can't remember which, but I know it was a troll. Anyway, the author of the comic was present at the convention so the fans were out in droves, and Rabbit too. So we're walking around and she keeps getting attacked by a bunch of kids who can't be older than 14. We're 18-19 so we obviously know about ASAP. People hit her with prop weapons, come up and try to tackle her, ask for kisses, flirt, and one even tried feeling her up. This all culminates with some bozo dressed like a gigolo hitting her over the head with a bowling pin and breaking the horns she had made for the event. Needless to say she's furious and excuses herself to the bathroom. A few minutes later she's back, having dumped her horns, jacket, contacts, and wiped the face paint off. We spent the rest of the day in a foul mood. The next day we heard that a bunch of Homestuck graffiti had been found in the surrounding area and the convention had to move hotels next year. I cosplayed as Haru from the anime Free, and somebody came up to me and asked, and I quote, "put my bishy dong in her." Went with a Comic Con with my girlfriend, who was dressed as Black Canary. I was Green Arrow. Naturally some people asked for pictures of us with us. Alright, cool, no big deal. What was weird were the amount of guys that wanted a picture of just her. One guy even came up, asked if he could take a picture with us, and after we agreed, he handed me the camera. Oh, okay, I see what this is. But the cringiest moment was this one guy, maybe 20 years older than us. He asked for a picture of her, was used to it at this point so it's whatever, then proceeds to spend a good 60 seconds taking the photo. I don't know if he was taking multiple photos or trying to get the perfect boob pic or what, but ain't no way it takes you a full minute to take a single photo on a cell phone. I dressed as Rose Quartz from Steven Universe, and a neckbeard type guy sort of dressed as a character from the same show approached me by coming up right behind me and said Rose my waifu while I was talking to a vendor. He had the greasiest hair I have ever seen and really bad BO. He asked for a pic and I said okay, and then he asked to pose with me kissing his cheek and I said no. He got upset and said that I had to because he loved Rose blah 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 and I didn't know how to disengage. Funnily enough, a Pearl cosplayer intervened and told him to beat it. I dressed as Junkrat for a con. At the time I had no idea how many kids played Overwatch. So for the entire day all I got was 10-year-olds shouting references and wanting photos with me and their parents giving me strange looks. All the Homestuck cosplayers wandering around in a giant group making fun of other cosplayers. First con I saw that, the doors opened and an overweight Gamzee walked in, looked around and muttered there's so much anime crap. It was the best first impression of an anime convention I've ever had. Couldn't stop laughing. I cosplayed Frankenfurter from the Rocky Horror Picture Show at a Comic Con about a year ago. I had a lot of pleasant interactions with other cosplayers during the day. Lots of "ooh I love that movie, hey do the time warp" sort of conversations. A few people hit on me. I'm a woman in fishnets and a corset at a Comic Con. That was expected. Nothing too weird or uncomfortable. And then there was this one dude and his friend. They kept following me around, talking to me about weirdly personal topics, and getting far too handsy. Eventually I started to get nervous, so I excused myself to the bathroom. I just wanted to distance myself from them a little. As I go to leave, the guy goes, "Wait, before you go, can I get a picture?" "Okay, fine. Just take a photo then leave me alone." So the guy grabs me, picks me up, throws me over his shoulder so my ass is sticking up in the air, in fishnets and bikini bottoms, and his buddy takes a picture. Then he drops me back on the ground, and the two guys take off. It all happened in about 10 seconds, so I barely had time to react. Some guy dressed as Deadpool helped me up and walked me to the security booth to report the guys, but nothing ever came of it. So weird, cringy, and terrifying. I don't cosplay Frank anymore. Oh man. Myself and a few friends occasionally go to local cons just to hang out, drink, and buy some merch. But I'll never forget a local con in early fall of 2008. We usually never went in cosplay, but Gurren Lagann was still in a fever pitch of popularity at the time, and one of my friends was really big on it and went dressed as Carmina while the rest of us still went in regular clothes. It is worth noting that said particular friend is a decent looking 6'4" fellow and was training for marathon running at the time, so he pulled off a pretty dang good Carmina. It turned into a day from nerd heck. From the moment we walked into the main hall he was assaulted in nearly every manner by girl and guy alike. Tons of people wanted pictures with him or of him posing. Endless pictures. And countless times random girls, and a couple guys, would run out of nowhere and jump onto him. Which resulted more often than not him nearly dragged to the ground by these random attackers. I can actually still to this day remember one girl screaming "Carmina-san, I love you" as she flung herself at my friend. He did his damnedest to be nice friendly for pictures while the rest of us spent more time acting as impromptu bodyguards for him than enjoying the convention. Needless to say he doesn't care much to cosplay these days. The only time I ever cosplayed, I cosplayed one of the Love Live characters' school uniforms. Blazer, white dress shirt, and really short skirt. Literally 5 minutes after showing up to the convention, I turned around on the escalator and caught the dude behind me trying to look up my skirt. I used to cosplay a few years back. I went to a Comic Con cosplaying as a character from my favorite series, Mahou Sensei Nejima, which means I was in a generic schoolgirl outfit. I was actually at Spike Spencer's artist table, just having a conversation with him and his bodyguard, fangirling on the inside, when this rando comes up to me and asks for a pic. Sure, why not? I'll tell you why not. As soon as I step away from the table, this guy gets so close to me that I could smell his breath and says, "You have some really nice boobies. Did you know that?" Now, I am 5 feet 1 inches and 100 pounds while this guy was a good foot taller than me and overweight. This guy peed me off so bad that my reaction was to push him with strength I never knew I had, which made him stumble backwards and into the table behind him. I'm mad as all heck. Guy looked shocked and confused before he speed walked away. I had a guy take stealth pictures of my feet. It was super obvious by how close he was to me, how he paused whenever I paused, and the way his camera was angled and how he held it. I got security to talk to him and turns out he was taking pics of other girls' feet too. There was another time when a guy asked for a picture with me and when posing he literally cut my butt with his hand. I was too scared to say anything, but nowadays I wouldn't let that happen. My husband and I went to Middle TN anime convention and there was a guy cosplaying as Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls. We were dressed as Dipper and Wendy and went to a photo shoot and the Bill Cipher guy was too into character. When I was in college, I went to a small cosplay event wearing a cardboard box that says Gundam on it. This middle-aged suburban mom stopped me and looked at her fedora-wearing college-age son and asked him in an almost baby voice, "Do you wanna take a picture with the Gundam?" I agreed to it, but I felt like a birthday party mascot getting a picture with the kids. Except this kid was about my age. Further back, in high school, my at the time girlfriend and I went to a cosplay gathering. I made some comment about Macross Frontier. It's a show about pretty boys and giant robots or something along those lines. I still haven't finished that show, and then some neckbud with 10 years on us felt the need to sit down by us, whip out his laptop, and pull up 4chan to school us on Mecha anime. Had to stop talking to this super lovely Edward Elric cosplayer. It was her first con. She was so sweet, because the guy she was with, who was wearing a clearly for children Deadpool costume, would not stop flirting with my two friends. They're dating and were literally stood in front of this guy holding hands and referred to each other as girlfriends. He was just so cringy. Had other people who would not stop touching my costume, which okay, I wear real chainmail, it's interesting, but I was just in line to pay for my drink. My sister and I were cosplaying two dudes, I'm also a girl, who were popularly shipped together. We were followed around all 3 days of the convention by a girl who wanted us to make out for photos. She also encouraged us to buy anything related to the series in the dealer hall, which was annoying and weird. She found us again the next year, too, and was incredibly obnoxious to our friend who was cosplaying a different show. I wore a pair of Persicamies from the manga anime Chobits to a convention in high school. For people that don't know, a Persicam is a computer shaped like a person, usually designed to look like girls. They range from actual people size to tiny doll size. Anyways, I had an older guy approach me, tug on one of the ears, and ask if I was one of the erotic models. Snicker and was wondering aloud if I felt like a real girl. Yes, the series does mention this aspect, but I never expected anyone to make such a comment to 15-year-old me. I wasn't even in a costume other than the ears. I was wearing the Savior's hide armor from Skyrim at a convention when this fanboy, imagine the type, hefty, kinda sweaty, wearing a t-shirt he's probably owned since the late 90s, asked me for a photo of the costume and asked what it was. I replied that it was Savior's hide, the werewolf armor from Skyrim. As I said so, I pointed to the wolf face that makes up the cuirass. He wasn't satisfied with this answer and replied, "Oh yeah, a dragon head. Your armor totally looks like a dragon head. It's based on a wolf actually. The quest is about a werewolf. Really though, it's a dragon head." Okay. Hello friendo, you have been visited by the cozy puppers of Lazy Sundays. Upvote now or you may never have a good relax ever again. Thanks for watching. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.